Thanks, Chair. Look, and welcome everybody to today's meeting. And we're at the halfway point in relation to this joint committee on assisted dying, and it's been very interesting thus far, regardless of what your position is on this. And as Jenny has said, Ireland has come a long way in the last 25 years in relation to a lot of issues, and one of these issues that it has to grapple with is the issue around assisted dying. And all the indications would state that, you know, we're ready for the debate, and also the Irish public would be generally in support of assisted dying if it was legislated for. We are the legislators, and that's why we're here today. So my first question is to Justin and Jenny, and I want to first commend Jenny for all the work you've done over the last number of years. I think you're a giant in relation to this issue, and I appreciate your work. And End of Life Ireland, they're doing fantastic work. So my first question is just a very kind of simple question. What are the obstacles to legislating for assisted dying in Ireland?
I think okay, my background is I'm a solicitor, and so I see these things from a legal point of view as a practitioner. And in the points that I wanted to make here would be that while I qualified in the 1970s, it wasn't until 1996 that we had a law that allowed people to exercise autonomy in relation to their own care in the event that they lost capacity. And that was the Power of Attorney Act. I remember it was Mervyn
Taylor?
Mervyn Taylor, of course, who brought it in at the time, and somebody for whom I had a lot of respect. But it changed the way I did my own work at the time, because now we had some structure. And in other words, instead of just listening to people giving me instructions concerning their wills, I could now talk to them a bit more about what they should do in terms of preparing for death, preparing for their end, and appointing attorneys. And in the course of years after 96, I must have written hundreds of these enduring powers. But it really was only half the story, and it wasn't until afterwards we had Ireland's ratification of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities that we needed to move up a notch. And the Assisted Decision-Making Capacity Act, whereas it was passed in 2015, couldn't be implemented because we didn't have the resources or the means, and it took 8 years to put those in place. So my answer to your question, Mr. Kenny, is that we have those structures now. There is in place an infrastructure for people like me as practitioners to oversee the undertaking by candidates for end-of-life care to sign off on advance directives in a manner that makes it clear that they know what they're doing, they have been informed, and they have correctly communicated that information.
Okay. And obviously the committee has looked at other variations of assisted dying around different parts of the world. Is there kind of a model that, you know, we could look at and try to replicate in relation to an Irish context? Is there a model that we can, obviously, as I said, there is variations, but is there a kind of system where it could be tolerated to a certain degree?
You're the politician, and that's really a political question. There are models popping up all the time. I mean, the Isle of Man has recently passed a law. It's happening so fast that it's taking other people all the time, all the academic time, to examine it. And I think ultimately that's something that you're going to have to crystallize. From our point of view, we could take a liberal view, or you could take a conservative view. I suppose I would be more inclined to take a liberal view and lean towards those who are the patients that they should exercise autonomy, and that they are the ones we should listen to.
Okay.
A doctor will say that the condition is terminal, but it's the patient who will say whether it's intolerable and whether they can suffer it any longer. And the means to an end should be in the hands of the patient.
Okay, thanks. Just my final question is to Stephen. Stephen, just want to get your thoughts in relation to what's been happening in the Isle of Man. Obviously, it's a small part of the United Kingdom as such, but I think it's quite significant that if a part of the United Kingdom legislate for assisted dying, that this could have a domino effect. So I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Yes, obviously they have to make their own decision about their legislation, and they're past the second reading stage. As I understand it, Scotland also is looking very closely at this, and there'll be a bill coming before Parliament in Scotland soon. So we're becoming more and more isolated in more affluent countries compared to our neighbours. So it will inevitably have some influence, but it's up to the politicians to decide.
And just in relation to, say, Westminster, I think there's a special committee at the moment in Westminster. Do you have any updates in relation to where that's going?
Yeah, the report from the select committee hasn't finally been published as far as I'm aware. I did give evidence to the committee, though, around the issues that are need to be approached for safeguarding the needs of disabled people.
Grant, thank you.